office hours. A little later than I expected, but here I am out of my kitchen because I kept thinking how yesterday was supposed to be the day, but I was getting things for the kitchen. So, what isn't the best way to come to you live out of my kitchen? Although I'm not gonna show you any cooking skills or anything, although I did have a video about cooking in relationship to emotions, expressing our emotions. So that's another place why kitchen is a great place. Anyway, to the topic of today, it is, what is love? There's a lot of songs out there. Just as I said, this is like the song from Tina Turner, What's Love Got to Do with It? Good question. There is What is Love by Dr. Alban. I don't know if you know this guy, but I grew up with that guy. And so on and so forth. So many songs. The Beatles sang a bunch about that, love. I think a lot of the songs are about that. I had a session yesterday that was about, we talked about love. Why talk about love? For me, look at my dress, look at what's in behind me, the art that I made. Love is the centerpiece of my life. For some, it's just subconsciously, and for me, it's upfront, right here. And so, is it love cooking, making food for other people, which is actually what I'm doing today, or just food for myself? Is it listening to music, doing things for myself, or doing things for my family, and so on and so forth? So love can have different ways of, can look different ways. It can be different ways. It can be in relationship to people. It can be a relationship to things. It could be in places, a feeling. It could be many things. And if you, where was I sharing this? In my post about Paris. If you haven't seen that one, you should check it out. I was writing about the what is love, or that love isn't simply giving and then what else it is. But I'm not going to talk about that quote today because I used it a bunch. I used it in my yoga on Tuesdays. So if you want to go back, you look it up there as well. And before I continue, I just want to say I did the yoga on Tuesday in the same outfit that I did the last time I had my yoga on Tuesdays, and this is the same outfit I had the last time I did office hours. But because it's so far away, I don't even remember. So usually, not that I try to make sure of that. But anyway, here we are. And so, what is love? What is love to you? That was my initial question in yesterday's workshop. What is love to you? And there can be, like I said, it depends on what we're referring to. Love can look different in many aspects. And so usually when we talk about love, and especially, I'm originally from Switzerland, and I don't say I love you in German, ich liebe dich, as lightly as I would say it in English. And it probably has something to do with history of how we relate to the word love. And so growing up, for me, love was more the romantic love, that love that you share with that special person in your life. And I have learned over the years that love can have a much more, not spacious, what's the word? More encompassing. It's not the word I'm looking for, but that's the word that comes to mind. Encompassing aspect, meaning I can have true love even for people in my life that might not be, that I'm not being romantically involved in. And that is where the stretch begins. And so what I really came to realize, especially in yesterday's session, is that love is something that comes from here. That's why we're using hearts that are not really a reflection of our heart, because the shape of our heart is slightly different. But that's where I feel the origination of love really comes from, because love doesn't come from my thinking, right? So how can I, and this is really the mission of mindful being, how can I get my knowing, my feelings, my trust, my everything about life not only happening in here, or rather not only in my mind where I get the final say, but actually that my heart will guide me. So here comes the stretch. Oftentimes when we find ourselves in certain situations, is that I'm going to use my brain, make sense of it, and see how does it relate to life. Does it make sense? Is it yeah, does it make sense? It's kind of like the main thing. And so whenever we're asked this question, does it make sense, we're going into the state of mind, into our brain, to go through all the scenarios, right? And it starts with the amygdala first, right? The protective brain of ours, which is very old. And so that part is really like checking all, you know, am I too hot? Am I too cold? Do I get something in return? Is it really fair? And all these things. But it's not like the fair that I'm thinking in my prefrontal cortex, which we get to in a moment. But it's really that part of like, am I safe, right? It's always going to be like, oh, no, don't go there. So that's the first part. But then it also is checking in with the hippocampus, which is our memory, right? It's asking us, do you remember a situation like this that turned out good, right? Like protective in a good way. And if you didn't have that, if whatever you're experiencing right now that your brain is checking in before you say yes or no to it, be it something that you, something new, something you take a risk in, then your brain's going to go through those patterns, right? And it's going to ask itself. And then there comes the last part of our brain that's going to tell you, yes, go do it. Or, you know what? From what we experienced in the past, from what happened before, and how I feel about it, and what the signals are giving me, I'd rather not, right? And so this is really what I want to talk briefly about, is that this part will always go through these, at least those three patterns, right? First, alarm, alarm, is this safe? Then, what are my memories about this? Is going to come from this? And then a decision, yes or no. And when I check in with my heart, it can't do that. It might send signals back to my brain to check, like, hey, can you check this part of it? Is that safe? What memories do I have about this? What are the consequences of this? And chances are that the heart will be like, oh, okay, you tell me not to do it, I'm not going to do it, right? But the heart, in the end, on its own, would always go for it. They're like, we're going to try it out. We're going to see what happens, right? So at the end of the day, if you're somebody who is more comprehensive, protective, comprehensive, comprehensive, of like, I'm not going to do it right away. I first want to check all the marks and see if it approves, right? Be it through my memory, be it through the consequences, or be it just from the protection itself. Then that would be a practice, is to always check in with the heart last and see, is there a little piece of my heart that's going to say like, yes, go try it out and see. It's not like, not guaranteed it's going to work out, but it's safe. So that really is what we want to go about, because the amygdala, the oldest part of our brain, will always see danger. And so we really want to train it that the danger that we might think we see is only an old version of it. Maybe not even ours, like not even happened in our lifetime. And I just checked what I was wearing in my last office hours, and that was how the conversation there was about our ancestors and how our ancestors have an impact on how our behaviors are going. So I'm sure that same thing is going about how we go about love. Is this safe? Is this a friendship, a relationship, something that I want to enter to? Because that obviously is our topic today. And so, having said that, what is love can probably not be answered with one answer. It probably has many, many different checkpoints where we say like, well, this and this has to be for this particular situation. So it gets really, really complex. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, love is not that complicated if I follow it from my heart. And I know all that I'm saying right now sounds rather complicated, or maybe not so trusting, maybe even not so capable of following through a system. And that's true. That's why I'm doing these lives. This is why I'm doing these videos and conversations and posts, is to train ourselves out of our minds into our hearts so that we can train our brain from our hearts. Questions about that? Let me know. I'm going to say goodbye because I'm going to be cutting some vegetables and fruits for today's meal. And if I'm lucky to take a picture, meaning to remember to take a picture, I will share with you what I made today. It's going to be something. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Anyway, so thank you for watching this. If you watch it, say something about your experience around love. How have you functioned in relationship to saying yes to something that took some courage, maybe some work, because that's a whole nother thing that would flow into this, according to this guy, Scott Peck, M. Scott Peck, who wrote this book, The Road Less Traveled. And that's where I got all this juicy information from this quote that I shared at the beginning, or rather that I talked about, because I did not share the whole quote. Anywho, there is so much more to talk about love. This is just a little intro because I'm back again after a long break. And so just starting right off with the topic that I am excited about, which is love, and most importantly, unconditional love. But we will get to that next week. All right, take care, see you, and goodbye.